My name is Joseph. I'm an addict. Grateful to be here today. We begin this workshop with a moment of silence for those of us who are not here, followed by the serenity prayer for those who care to join. Serenity prayer. God,
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Amen. I've asked Mike to read the tradition for us.
I'm Mike, and I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict.
Hi, Mike.
Through all traditions of NA, we keep what we have, only with vigilance, just as freedom for the individual comes from the 12 steps, so freedom for the group springs from our tradition. As long as the ties that bind us together are stronger than those that would tear us apart, all will be well. 1. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends on NA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, loving God. He may express himself in our group conscience. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3. The only requirement for membership is desire to stop using. 4. Each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or NA as a whole. 5. Each group has one primary purpose, to carry the message to the addict who still suffers. 6. An NA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the NA name to any related facility or outside enterprise. Such problems of money, property, or prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every NA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. 8. Narcotics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. NA as such ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. NA has no opinion on outside issues, hence the NA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need to always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personalities.
Thanks, Mike. On that 12th tradition, I have found through trial and error, when we start up with new groups, or the continuation and growth of existing healthy groups to provide an atmosphere of healthy recovery, that something that I always had to keep in my mind is to place the principles of recovery for any personality, on one person or any other people. We're all in here, we're all recovering. Probably not one of us in this room that are in the same level or rate of recovery in our illness and our disease. I'm still today a very sick person, but I can enjoy it, I can grow on a daily basis. First, I'd like to just start and go around the room and just tell us who you are or whatever.
My name is Joel Mallett. I'm a recovering addict and alcoholic.
Hi, Joe.
I'm glad to be here standing straight.
Love you.
Good. Love you. I'm from Waterloo, Iowa. Real addict.
My name is Dennis Osman. I'm from McPherson. I'm an addict and alcoholic.
Hi, Dennis.
I'm really glad to be here. Nice to get together with all the people. That's what I need, fellowship with people.
Grateful you're here.
I'm Ron. I'm an alcoholic addict.
Hi, Ron.
I'm glad to be here. Almost talked myself out of coming up here.
welcome.
I'm Laura from Salon
Hi, Lana.
I'm Dan Gordy, I'm an addict and alcoholic.
Hi, Dan. Hi, Dan.
And I'm looking forward to this sometime.
Lucky.
I'm Dave Mustin of Waterloo, I'm an alcoholic drug addict.
How do you do today?
I'm willing.
I hear that.
My name's Walter, I'm from Canada, I'm a drug addict.
Hi, Walter.
And I'm really glad to be here. I want to get fired up and start a new group, so that's what I'm here for.
That's where it happens.
Chris, drug addict and alcoholic.
Hi, Chris.
Job in Missouri. Great to be in Wichita.
Really?
I'm Bruce, and I'm an addict from Hillsborough.
Hi, Bruce.
Glad to be here.
Jamie, I'm alcoholic and drug addict.
Hi, Jimmy.
Everybody.
Love you.
Marty, I'm an alcoholic. I'm
Marty.
from California.
Well,
I'm an addict and an alcoholic and
hi, Dan.
I'm Mel. I'm Kevin. I'm Mel.
Mel.
Really?
Hi, Brad.
My name's Cliff, and I'm a drug addict.
Hi, Cliff.
Privileged to be here.
I'm Steve. I'm a recovering alcoholic and drug addict.
Hi, Steve.
I'm from Waterloo, Iowa. And here to learn a little bit. I enjoyed what you had to say last night. One time from there.
I'm Mike, and I'm an alcoholic and drug addict.
Hi,
Mike.
Hi,
I've come to believe.
Mike, I came to, and I came to believe. Yeah. Okay, I am from Memphis. My first convention that I attended was in Atlanta last year. Before then, I never had met only one member of Narcotics Anonymous. I found after searching for months and reading something somewhere that this day I cannot know where I read anything about NA. I searched around at all the state facilities and everything in the Mid-South area, and no one knew anything or even heard of it. So I went to the public library because I was desperate. I was in another program, but I was miserable and I was mentally dying. So I went there, and Jimmy K, World Service Office, had sent some information to the library, probably in some of your areas too. So they said, here, let me give you the address, and at that point I said, no, just let me have the phone number if you had one, because I needed help digging because I was dying. So I called, and we talked over a period of a week. We talked many times. He called me, and I called him, and he said, there's not anything around in your area. He said, send you material. You are dying. You need help. Here's what to do. Well, that's how Narcotics Anonymous in the Mid-South area got started. By trial and error, by relying on a higher power, by just saying, well, what is the next step? Find the 12th tradition. Keeping my honesty that I continue to grow with you, my honest intentions and my honest motives in check. Keeping my ego in check. My false pride in check. On a moment-by-moment basis a lot of times. Why so much the theme for this convention, the ties that bind us together, is so important. The ties are our disease and our illness, not our personality. Our ego can keep us apart. Our false pride. Our dishonesty will keep us apart, especially in new groups. It's not necessary. So, to begin with, I'd like to see if just open it up to questions, answers, sort of let the group conscience take the flow of what we do here.
I'm living in Pasadena, which is real close to Houston, so I travel in and out, for about 23 miles to get to a meeting every night. And I went to a lot of AA in Pasadena and found out that I couldn't really relate to those people, because there are a lot of older people. It's a real nice group, but I found myself, having to go into Houston or Bel Air, 5 nights a week to stay sober. I mean, I did it. I didn't mind it. But I would really like to, get some started out there. There are some people that are willing to, get together and do it. I don't know how to do it. I live in a trailer. I don't know where I go to start a meeting like that. But, I'd like to, I think this is what it's all about.
First, all we need is 2 people. Too much of a burden and a mental stress that I've found with other people that I've shared with me and I've shared with in various areas of this country. 2 people minimum to carry the load of hearing the message and staying alive. You may not have in your area an area service committee or regional service committee close by that would have starter kits. In Memphis, we do have starter kits. We feed out to the areas in the Mid-South. Atlanta does, and of course, you can always get it from World Service Office. So there are 3 locations right there where just a 3-minute phone call, even collect. Jimmy K, or Bo, or myself in Memphis, or Bo in Atlanta, to start with. Once that receive that in the mail, I would suggest that you have a public library. NA meetings, as I've found over the last hour and a half, I find that works out best if you read material that's suggested so you have time for discussion. Libraries usually close at 9 o'clock. Start your meeting at 7. And then go from there and have 30 minutes after the meeting to clean up. Non-denominational churches, if you have any. You're sort of in an outlying Texas, right? Of the Bible Belt as I am, right in the middle of it. So non-denominational churches seem to work out best if it doesn't come in conflict with some hardcore doctrines. That might get in there and they might say, well, we heard you say this or you were cussing, and there goes the meeting place. Right there, and then you've already got some word out for a few weeks, and then it's not there, and then maybe cause someone to die. So location is very, very important. Our first meeting in Memphis was in recovery, long-term drug recovery program. And it's never had any recovery since it existed, no matter if people stayed there a year. Without the principles of recovery, the steps of recovery for our program. They were open-minded and let us in. At first they didn't want us, but only 3 of us would come to the meeting. We might bring drugs to their people or whatever. See, they didn't understand. They never had dealings with anything like this. So I don't know what your situation is about treatment facilities down there. So your public library or your non-denominational, more flexible type religious organization would be your best chance, I think. don't know how well you work with the AA intergroup or how open-minded they are. I know also that they have a clubhouse, AA-oriented clubhouse. Sometimes on an extra night, they'll have a meeting place and work out arrangements they'll be happy to. Are there?
The problem that I come into here in Pasadena is a lot of people and a lot of citizens, and they don't like it. They just come in. And this is strictly Pasadena, not this way, but they don't like addicts coming in here because I'll see a lot of them say, I just have to read it for them. Because, well, I was in the fact that some of them could eat pills and they thought they were doing all right. And I can't be around them. And a lot of the young people that I see come into that club will listen to some of them, and I don't think it's good. I really don't. I think there has to be some intervention. I don't know how to go about it. I don't even know if I can even want to come.
Okay, there were many times when the person that I tried to start up with decided to do some more research. So there are many times when I sat alone at a meeting. Now that couldn't lock the door and have that happen. They would come into the windows or wherever else, as I would today. In your trailer, that I wouldn't suggest that at all. Or in anyone's home, because that right off the bat turns into, where consciously or unconsciously turns into a cliquish or personality thing. That's my opinion. Needs to be something that's public, something that you can work out. It's important too that you work out the patients you're with, whether it's $1 a week or $2 a week or $1 a year. Something like that, knock it over your head. Pay something. Are there any type places like that, a recovery house that does not have the program? That's a public library.
We also have, rooms in the AA club. I don't know if they would one place I could talk to you about.
For one night a week.
Is there a hospital?
There's a hospital, but there isn't a hospital with a drugstore,
Well, we're fortunate in our area. We have a hospital that does have that. But I think if there's any hospital, they probably have some classrooms where they work out, like for teaching their student nurses and things like this. I would avoid, this is my own personal thoughts though, as far as avoiding AA, because NA is trying to find their own identity. And we owe an awful lot to AA, what we have. But yet, we, in Waterloo, Iowa, we have the same problem that you're looking at. The alcoholics don't want the doper at their meeting. I don't know if it's that way all over the world, but in Waterloo, Iowa right now it is. And there's a lot of places. If you have an American Legion Hall, that's where we have our meetings now, because they're a non-profit organization, and the same as we are, and they've accepted it. Or a drug council. We had our meetings for a while at a drug council after they were closed. But I have to agree with him, with Joe, as far as having them away from your homes, because we tried it in our homes for a while, and it got to be more of a bullshit rap than it was an NA meeting. And the fact that somebody had to put, if they were married, we tried to spread them out so that one month they'd be at one person's home and another month they'd be someplace else, and to ask your spouse to pack the kids up and take off was asking a lot from your family too. And then to have them around, the little kids would run through your meeting and things. So avoid the trailer as much as possible, because you get into a lot of headaches out of that. But check with your hospital, and I'd still avoid AA as much as possible, of course, having your NA meetings there, because they really, from the ones I've found, they really don't want it.
Do you have a city, county, or state hospital, emergency room type thing? there. That's another thought that we have in one of their conferences along the city or state or county supported. You are non-profit. It takes going in to any of these places, taking the literature in, going down and telling, explaining or educating people whose facility it is or who are in charge of that facility. What your purpose is, what the program is, leave the literature with them. Answer any questions and ask for not a commitment today. Read it, think about it, and give you a call or either to set up a time when you can call them back or just drop back by to see them. If you get too pushy on the front end or you just go all out, they might just say no because they don't understand it. It's fear of narcotics, you know. The first thing comes to, oh, I was keeping them out, you know, drug addict. Oh, no. Let them make the decision to give them some leeway and some time to make it a couple of days or weeks. They'll probably want to check. They will want to make the decision on their own. And,
I think it's so important for, a junkie to have an interview. Because when I go to this one club, I feel like I can't say what I want to say and express things that I've been through. I know an alcoholic had a hard life, but, I just get the feeling sometimes in some of those meetings that, people aren't really being honest. People that I know, drug addicts will come from the subject. And, I got desperate, a month ago, and so I just had it in my trailer, I'll just go down to a place called Recovery Center in Houston where I'll get the literature out. And, but I thought twice about that, I ended up staying with my father all the time. And, I got ripped off, a few months ago, and he said, well, it's okay, we have a hearing it, but I don't want any of your friends, going back out using and coming in with him off, so I've got to think about that.
My name is Greg, and I'm a drug addict.
yeah, Greg.
Hi, everybody. And I just recently moved from Atlanta, where there's a real strong NA community, to Washington, D.C., Maryland area, where there isn't a very strong NA community. And found it for myself that it was very difficult at first, because I began to get a resentment against AA. We have a sign at the local AA club, people with drug problems only are requested to leave. I really identify with what you're saying about NA getting its own identity too. I think that's just so important to get as many meetings as going. But at the same time, in the area where I'm living, I realized that what I was doing was cutting myself off from AA. And while I've never had an alcohol problem, I really can't do that and really work through the program because NA is not really strong yet. It will be. But I've got to really watch getting a resentment against AA and watching my spiritual pride saying, hey, NA is it, NA is it. And I think the reality of the situation is, or the higher thing is the unity of the two programs pulling together. I think that's going to be the wave of the future, especially because, 85% or something like that are dual addicted coming in. But although I can't go into my drug problem, the 11 steps from 2 to 12 are basically about the way of life and not about what type of drug we're addicted to. So I just identified with some people going to AA meetings who just had drug problems, and nobody was going to throw them out of there. They were going to speak their piece, and it was too bad. They were in there to save their ass, and that was it. And that was beautiful. And those people were growing through that experience. And it turned out that there were enough AA people that are supportive of that kind of thing. And I think, too, that the AA people that are really practicing the program are not doing sedatives. And I think you'll find enough of them around.
Yeah, if you don't allow yourself to cut yourself off from the other programs. I found in my first few months that I did that. And it was very unhealthy for me. It didn't bother any other individual but myself. but when I started back and then the 12th edition, Principles of Recovery, not the personality, not that old codger sitting there, that wild woman sitting over there, you know, I would go through my mind when she's probably screwing everybody in that room, all of the drunks and everything. I am a drunk too, but in putting little, even index cards or little flyers, just to let people know that I knew that I was a drug addict, that heard me talk, share in meetings, and that, you know, if someone comes into the meeting and they have a drug problem, other than alcohol, you know, ask them to call me. You know, if they give you their name and number, call me and give it to me. It works slowly. There'll be one person, and there'll be 3, and 4. After months. It won't be an instant meeting. It won't run just like you would. But walking to a meeting has been established for me. But sticking to the steps, sticking to the literature, to whatever the information packet says, and following those procedures. Because I had to do that because of the way my mind is. If I deviate here or vary from over here, my mind wants to go off on a tangent and do all kind of other weird things. So just hearing right to how it's been set up and how it's worked before in other areas, I needed that guideline, and I kept wanting to inject different things into it, but I knew that was not good for me.
And I go to at least 2 AA meetings a week, and it's really fantastic folks and useful with a lot of good issues. And it just so happens that in Pasadena, you know, they're just totally different people. And the first meeting I went to, I mean, you know, stood up in the room and said, maybe I think you want to find, you know, a place that has a drug problem. This is an alcohol problem. And, well, you know, I got real resentful. I said, God damn it, you know, I don't have to leave. The only desire for me to be here is to stop drinking. And I stayed.
That's right. But he also has a right to his opinion.
That's right. But, you know, I can see some people coming in and, you know, if you told that to them, they'd go right back out.
But you didn't.
My name's Walter, and I'm an addict.
You're welcome.
Where I come from, it's very anti-drug. They do not like drug addicts. And I found this out very fast by getting up. The first time I found NA, I heard about it. And I got up at a meeting and I said, my name's Walter, and I'm an alcoholic and an addict. And I literally felt the vibes in the room. I felt like a door going bang. And all those minds out there closed right away, right? And we didn't have much of a meeting going. It was a meeting in a house, and that's where we started. And so we changed things a little bit. We sort of sat down and we thought about this little problem. How, you know, why are all these minds closing on us? And why are we taking so much flack from the AA members? You know, do we have to? And we decided that we really didn't have to take all the flack that we were getting. And so we set about to change other people. And I know that maybe that doesn't go along with the program, but we managed to do it. We managed to open a few minds, you know, a few AA minds, you know, hardcore alcoholic minds got open to the fact that this program is very similar. And we did it very quietly, very subversively, using the thing. Probably the easiest way to do it is that, you know, like, you start a rumor in AA, man, it's like out like wildfire, and everybody knows about it within a very short period of time. And we used that, word of mouth. I told one person, hey, I'm an addict. And he said, oh yeah, I used to do drugs too, you know, and you get that sort of thing going on, and pretty soon he gets pretty interested in it, or she, or whatever, you know, and you're swapping stories, and you're telling them about the program, and it's just like AA, except we talk about drugs. Oh yeah, that's kind of neat. And we got a lot of people into NA at first from the AA group. And then we started making the connections with some of our dealers, you know, who we knew were having problems. And they started coming around. And now we've got quite a little nucleus of, well, I'd say about half and half. Half of them are from the AA program, the other half are right out of the streets, you know, and they're there. And it all started just strictly with AA. Just a casual mention. We didn't get up and say we were alcoholics and addicts. at an AA meeting. We said we were alcoholics, and that we also used other substances. And it just seems that just by changing the word from drugs to other substances, the minds didn't close that fast. They stayed open a little longer, and they were willing to listen to what we had to say. It's that the word drug has an aura about it. Some people hear that word and they just close up right away, and they don't want to listen anymore because they figure that you're an addict, and that's lower than an alcoholic. And it's not. And it really gave us a lot of problems. But that's how we solved our problem. Just by we didn't change our stories. We just changed maybe one word. We just said other substances, but we're here for alcohol.
My name's Marty, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Marty.
And I suffer from the number one drug problem in the country, alcohol. And I hear, that type of thing bothered me too. I was in California. Fortunately, the group I was going to, they were pretty open to the addict also. One time I was in one of the clubs on one side, and overheard some guy get upset that addicts there too, like the place. And that really burned me out, But I can understand it too, because see what happened is that I came down here in Missouri, and my dad encouraged me to go along with this guy named Mitchell, who's an alcoholic and an addict. And my dad's been an alcoholic for been in the program for 15 years with him, and he understands, the same problem. And so I was like, shut him off that. So I started taking the NA meetings. And it was good for me because, like, I think some people said before, it's like you go to AA meetings and you see a lot of older people. And I'm not that old. And so in some ways I don't identify with them. So it's like when so many people talk about drug problems, I don't understand it, I mean, in terms of drugs, the experience, I don't feel sympathize, or I just don't feel or understand. But I understand pain and I understand the need to shut it off. With alcohol. I mean, I tried Demerol and marijuana once. And I think that's the bottom line. I think it's a good point that if you're not addicted to alcohol, that community is a better place because there's not that common understanding. And it's called Alcoholics Anonymous. It's unfortunate that if you are addicted to alcohol and you go to a place, you also say you're an addict. I was afraid to say I was just an alcoholic here. I really was. I can understand that fear. And but I understand people just see it as a real thing.
See, back I know I've had many of those situations where that's happened, or I perceived it to happen, the minds closing in a meeting. But in reflecting back, I don't know, I think a lot of times my own illness, my own paranoia, my own comfortability that those minds, I saw them closing out. I thought they were closing out. I thought, there may have been one or two instances or individuals, but as a whole, I think for myself that it was just what was going on with me. I was making myself uncomfortable, either in my manner or in my choice of words, or trying to embarrass somebody else, or thinking they might be using but not drinking, and wanting to give them a jab suddenly. I've done that too, and I caused a lot of my own pain and possibly real rejection from the other program in certain individuals. But as it has grown and become stable, I think the most important thing at the meeting is there's been rumors going around, well, they just go and that's a drug exchange or contact place. And I found that in the startup packages, some these paraphrasing the words is that although you may come to your first meeting still using, thereafter come clean and sober, and no rigs or outfits for the protection of the group, etc. And that we ask that you not participate in the group in any way if you are using. You feel free to talk to someone after the meeting. But then by your lack of participation in the meeting is not a admission of you using. You know, make people feel at home, but let it know on the front end. So you don't, I know for myself, I don't want to sit in a meeting and listen to someone that's altered. I'll sit up all night with them, or all afternoon, or all whatever, or for 5 minutes, or whatever it takes. But not at a meeting. Then you sit and listen. And if you set that out on the front end, you don't have a conflict of the hassle of someone getting in there. I only had a couple of beers, or I only smoked a joint, you know, all that rationalizing. But they're altered, chemically altered in some way. If you clarify on the front end, it sends a very easy, subtle message. And you don't have to deal with it during the meeting. Like if it happened here and we were all sitting here and, you know, what do you do? Well, you need to be quiet, or would you leave? You kept on going, or, you know, that gets into some sort of conflict that's unnecessary. You started off on the front end. And it works real well in our area. Also, some of these older people in AA, as you know, I used to say, I don't anymore, the old codgers, the people that don't, I take everybody's inventory in Memphis in AA, one time or the other. I've grown from it though. They have a lot of time, and they have a lot of good stuff to share openly and honestly. Because a drug is a drug is a drug. If I came to realize I could open my mind and listen, there'd be no way that I would be alive today. My closed-mindedness and my hard-headedness kept me ill much more than I am today. But then they also have people our ages, or a wife, or a husband, that is addict, and they know, or use pills or whatever. So as you're stable, you conduct yourself in an atmosphere continually of recovery, of healthiness, and of open-mindedness. And the 12th edition, not putting personalities but principles of recovery, no matter what anybody else does. You'll, like you were saying, subversively or something, you'll change the minds, or they'll become open in different ways of some of the people that might have closed minds. You might see their daughter or their son or their wife or their husband because they don't fit in AA either. Because of the father, I'm not going to AA, or whatever the excuse may be. It sort of grows from within naturally. It's how we as addicts conduct ourselves around other people, our reaction. It's very important on the group starting up. These things I found for myself, and I learned them all the hard way. Some I haven't learned yet.
Dean, I'm an addict.
Hi, Dean.
Nice to see you leading this workshop. Sitting in one of these last year. It's really neat. I'm a dues-paying member of the Costa Mesa Lana Club. I know a couple secretaries in NA who are also dues-paying members of the Costa Mesa Lana Club. And anytime we need information posted, we put it on the outside bulletin board of the Costa Mesa Lana Club. We just put it right up there. NA picnic, NA beach party, NA meeting, new meeting. It's on the outside where the outside announcements are. We just put it right up there on the board. Everybody finds about it quick. Most of the young people that go to our Alano Club, they're what they would say in AA, dual problem cross addicted. So they all know from those of us in NA, we've got meetings. They all know about the program. I basically go to AA meetings for only one purpose, and that's to carry the message to the addict who still suffers in AA. I go to just like I go to prison or go to the hospital meeting. I go right to it, and I go, I'm an alcoholic when I'm in an AA meeting because I'm into not wanting to shock away people who are there for alcohol. And when I'm in NA, I say, I'm an addict. And page 19 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous says of necessity there has to be discussion of matters psychological, social, and medical. And drugs fits medical, psychological, social. So we talk about anything we feel like talking about in an AA meeting. The difficulty that I have in AA meetings is that there's always seems to be a part of me that's, I've got a wall up. I don't feel like I can just really get in there and identify completely with them, particularly when the person might still be smoking it or on diet pills. They tend to get on my case when I talk to them. But there's so many of us that are also in NA that we don't get hassled. We have our own in-crowd in the club there, but that's an outside issue. I found that it's important for me, anytime I'm in an area where I don't know where there's NA and I can't locate it, I just start a meeting, for my own recovery. I don't do it for anybody else. If I'm in an area where there's no NA and I'm scheduled to be in that area for a while, I just start one. And sometimes that meeting only lasts as long as I'm in that area, simply because nobody else is there to support it. I was the only one there, but that meeting supported me while I was there. And sometimes I was the only addict there. Me and my higher power, wherever me and my higher power were gathered, we had a meeting. And all it took was some people in the program of AA, knowing that I had also an addiction to other drugs in addition to alcohol, saying, hey, that sounds interesting. And them contacting people for me, like one was in a church once. They did it all. They just said, would you be willing to get it going, keep it running? I said, sure, because I need it. I don't care if nobody else shows up. I need it. I caught up a lot of reading on that meeting. I read all my literature, did inventory. I did a lot of programs just for that hour and a half. But I used to act as if meetings. I would get the starter kit, and I would read what we would read to start a meeting. I would just act as if me and myself were there, very importantly needing to hear all this, and I would just start at the top of the format and read through it. I would read it word for word, just like we were having a meeting. And I figured it this way, that by my going through the format, top to bottom, regardless of the number of people that were there, each week on that spot, I was setting in motion a vibratory rate that was attracting people to the program, whether they knew we were meeting there or not. Then we also got in contact with the different newspapers and church groups and social people in those areas, and let them know that regularly from now on at this point we're going to have a meeting, and it's here. And we got responses to that, not so much at first from the addicts themselves as much as from the significant other people. When they found that there was a meeting going, they went for it. And I know several areas that their AA people 100% supported NA starting, even in the same location they were having AA meetings, only in the other room next to them, simply because they knew that that's where the addict could identify most.
Please turn your tape. Do not rewind. Turn your tape and continue on side 2.
They support each other very well. I'm a type of person that is, I'm not violently opposed because I don't throw chairs anymore, but I'm opposed to seeing AA-NA combination meetings. That's just the way I am. I feel that the alcoholic needs a program to talk about alcohol, and the addict needs to program to talk about Mr. Ross. I feel that a person who's interested in starting a meeting should not judge what constitutes a meeting. What constitutes a meeting is that person's individual commitment to be there every week. And then to let the press, let the courts, let the social workers, let the PO officers, let the high school counselors know, hey, we're going to meet here regularly every week. And that person just being there every week, eventually somebody else will show up. I would do it just for my own benefit. I don't know how many meetings I've been in that lasted as long as the addicts that were there. But it served its purpose. It kept us clean. So it's nothing to starting a meeting. The main thing is sustaining it. Committing the person committing themselves to being there regularly, week after week. And eventually it'll draw people.
Thank you, James. My opinion is, on every point of Dean's, is I have the same opinion, except in one manner, and this is just in carrying the message of recovery to the addict who still suffers. At AA meetings, I always myself, I'm an alcoholic addict, or I'm an addict and a drunk. So that might fall on someone's ears. I might talk after the meeting. That kept me alive when someone else did that at one of the first few AA meetings I went to. I didn't able to establish a very good rapport with that person, but it couldn't put my mind to keep going to all these meetings and making myself available. And maybe I can find somebody I can relate to. My ego or my pride will let me relate to as sick as I was. I didn't know it was my ego or my pride then, but that's what I've come to realize. I also, through my own experience, have found that if I can make a commitment to one night to be there, even though if it ends up me being there alone, that I can also make a commitment to be there 2 nights, set up 2 meeting nights per week. I think it opens the avenues for growth a lot better, and I was able to make a commitment to myself for a minimum of 6 months. That's all I did, because that's what was suggested to me. And for 2 meetings per week, and that worked out real well. It's very difficult, as I have found, to get another meeting started after you have only one going. It's even difficult after you have 2 going regularly to start a third one. But it makes it a lot easier, I think, and simpler to have 2 started up where you sit there alone both nights. And be prepared to do that in 6 months. A personal commitment just becomes secondary to not using and staying clean today. And that's what I needed initially not to use. And reading the literature and reading the procedure and how the meeting opens and going and sitting there till it's time for the meeting to be over. If I was there, I would close in our normal way. Didn't have anybody to have bodies with, but said the Lord's Prayer and hung around for a few minutes afterwards in case somebody would come in. And on several occasions, one, the interdenominational church we were using, or I was using, I guess, higher power now, was on a college campus, and they had a phone there, and somebody heard about the meeting, and they were late, and they called, So there was one person there at that meeting that someone called, and there was a voice there. And that happened on 2 occasions, and on another occasion, someone was waiting outside, afraid to come in. So it's important for that place to be there, be regular, for a substantial period of time.
My name's Steve, I'm an alcoholic and drug addict.
That's important for me to remember that, wherever I go. What brought me into NA was alcoholism, because I could see that, because I only pulled the bananas when I drunk and drank. I could see that. I couldn't see, and what I denied was my drug addiction. That was my honey. That's what I liked. But I come about and I thought, I finally convinced myself that I was a drug addict. And if I couldn't get off drugs, I'd be back to drinking. And that was killing me. And they were both killing me, but the alcoholism to me was killing me outright. And well, I asked questions about, like in AA we have like 12 steps, and here you do too. Do you have like a 12 by 12 to go by? Do you have step classes, stuff like that? Okay, we do. And following the traditions, we gather together for the meeting time and read anything we might choose to, because we're not affiliated. Okay, that's not an NA meeting. At that point, it's a gathering of addicts, a gathering of dope fiends. So when it's time for the meeting, we open the meeting and we discuss from our personal experiences or from anything that we might have read. We don't use any outside material. We're not affiliated. You know? And it was difficult doing that. But it brings a closeness together in a sense of things coming from the heart and from the literature we have. There's all kind of good topics to discuss in this literature. Another Look is an excellent pamphlet I've found for discussion. From just for today, we read at the end of the meeting sometime, because what addiction is not. It's simple to do that. You may never get off one line of the first line of this pamphlet. That's okay. That stimulates stuff from the heart or things that other people have experienced or read. So we don't use any outside material in our meetings, before or after or whatever.
I'm Dean Galmatic. One thing we found in starting step study meetings in our area is that it's really great being in AA when you got all these thousands of years of sobriety and everybody knows how to do it backwards and forwards. And a lot of areas just have any particular addict who has to say the thing that does that mean you get it going, and everybody else wants to know what the steps about. What we did with our step study meetings that we have is we take the NA booklet and we read the steps that were on that week from the booklet. We read it, and then whoever has anything they want to ask or talk about that step, we discuss and talk on that step. And then as soon as everybody in the meeting has had their say on it, we just throw the meeting up to open discussion. So that way, if nobody has any particular experience they have to share, or no question that they have on it, or nothing that they've been working with it, then we just go into an open discussion. But at least we've read the step, and that's stimulated some interest in doing some action on the step, so that next time we cover that step, instead of sitting there bored, they can say, well, I tried this on that step. It stimulates them to hear the step, and then, because there wasn't much discussed on it, to actually take action and try the step. So our step study meeting now is based, first of all, on what step we're on that week. We just read it, and then everybody says what they want to say about it, and when they're done, we go into open discussion, or we ask, is there any other particular step you'd like to discuss? Okay? So we just read it right straight from the booklet, and then discuss it as much as we want, and then when everybody's done discussing it, we go into open discussion.
I have another suggestion that works real well, Dean. Thank you. We'll use that after you shared with me. And if you find in your area, or you yourself, like I used to be, would once NA found me, developed a resentment against any of the other programs' literature, and telling myself I couldn't relate, that a lot of times there's a place called Comp Care in Minnesota. They have a toll-free number. They have a booklet called The 12 Steps for Everyone. And that got me over a hump to use outside of the meeting. And I got it when I created hostility and resentment to myself. Well, that's it. It's an excellent book. It's not, for outside. To get yourself over the hump, to get the ego and pride down, manageable. To be able to do step out of the pamphlet and discuss it without the need to have something written down more with pages and pages and chapters to go on. That's part of my illness too. But that helped me get over a certain point in my recovery. But we are, as you know, sitting in this fellowship and this convention today, that at the same time there's a literature convention workshop going on. And we as a fellowship worldwide, as individuals gather together and dope teams gather together, are working on more literature. A comprehensive text on addiction submitted from the fellowship, you and I, each one of us sitting in here. But today we just have ourselves and our literature and our own desire not to use today.
My name is Walter. I'm an addict.
Walter.
I think it's very important that in whatever type of a meeting we're trying to start, whether it be a step meeting or just an ordinary open discussion or whatever, that we not close ourselves off to any spiritual information that we can get a hold of. Like there is no NA Big Book, so I personally rely very heavily on the NA Big Book. I rely very heavily on the A 12x12, and I also rely very heavily on another book that was written a long time ago, and a lot of people don't like it, but there's a lot of neat things in the Bible, I don't care what you say. I'm not trying to pump religion into anybody, because I read Bibles from every denomination, and they all say basically the same thing, And like I use little bits from every book that I can gather, because it's all spiritual, and I don't want to close my mind off to that whatever's coming at me, whatever I'm having problems with, or whatever I'm reading or discussing at that time. And if I can grab a little bit from the Bible and a little bit from the Big Book and a little bit from the 12x12, put it all together and have a good day, I'm going to do it, That's what it takes. And until such time as NA does have a big book, I really feel that you should close that off, use them. That's what they're there for. The big book was written for people with addictive problems. It says alcohol in there a lot. Addictive problems, I think, can fit in there just quite as easily.
We have in our region areas that are in open revolt against being told they can't read outside literature in the meeting. They are being warned that they're subject to having those meetings listed as special purpose and put in the backup directory and quite possibly dropped from the directory in our region. And the main thing that we're doing is each group's autonomous. We can't tell you what to do or not to do. We're simply trying to protect the NA program traditionally in our area. I'm in love with my area in the region because as soon as the World Service Conference said we're not going to read outside literature in our meetings, we automatically said, okay, great, we'll just read the steps from the booklet and discuss it like that. There's nothing to keep people getting together like Joe said and have everybody show up and read, I don't know, is it day by day or something like that?
Yeah.
Or read the steps from the booklet. And you got everybody there and everybody's read it, and then officially starting the NA meeting. And then just discussing whatever you feel like. Nobody's going to keep an addict from saying, hey, I really got a lot from the Bible today, or I really got a... We can talk about anything like and what's helping us today. The main thing is that during the meeting, we stick to our literature and yeah, well, what you do in your individual program, it's my responsibility as a sponsor to say, hey, you know, there's some stuff here that's really helping me. Look at this 12 and 12. Look at this step over here. Look at this comment here. I've read that. You know, I can individually help somebody with everything that's helped me. I'm just saying that we're trying to stick to the traditions as far as the meeting and the fellowship. What's helping the individual, they can share that at one before or after the meeting with the person that's responsible or the sponsor. You don't ask them for any of that. We're just trying to stay
Alive.
There are people dying on AA literature. Is that acceptable? Doesn't mean that they can't recover with the 12 and 12. I'm a 12 and 12 recovery.
Thanks, Dave.
I'm Marty, and I'm still a drunk.
Hi, Marty.
I like what this guy had to say about that. I agree with him. And I've been doing that, and it's kind of interesting, but I also think it's important to realize that a great deal of the big book or a lot of stuff that teaches the NA and AA is taken from the Bible. It's saying that the interesting thing is that it is something we can work with, something we can understand. Now, if you were just to read the Bible, you probably get all fucked up. But with AA and NA programs, you can have a simplified way of looking at it, something that can work. Look at the Bible, you know, things that make you feel guilty or whatever. Because I read the Bible, and I tell you, if I would just read that, I'd tell you there's a lot of things in there that really, it's really strange, some of the things those people did.
Yeah, different terminology, different words.
Yeah, and, but I think it's important to not make it very complicated.
Something I've found really useful is not taking personal responsibility for whether NA is going to succeed or fail in my particular area. That's what I was doing when I first started out to start some meetings. And my said to back off and practice the third step and just take it as a custom. If it's meant to succeed, it will succeed. It's not doing it anymore.
Well, it succeeds if it's one person is recovering and staying alive. You know, that's how that works. And not trying to fix it, not trying to make it work. Just being available, following the principles, attempting to work the steps. I do try to climb in my every move, driving down the street, contact with Earth people, or whatever else. In the state institution in our area, they let us have AA meetings because they didn't know what NA was. They thought it was just a bunch of junkies going to come up there and pass dope to patients. But as they saw our dedication and where we were coming from, and we were for real, they let us have one night of instead of 3 AA meetings a week, have 2 AA and a NA. And then it got to be 2 NA and an AA. And now it's 3 NA meetings a week at the state hospital. Just slowly, not forcing, just by consistency. People staying clean and sober, conducting ourselves as we're not used to conducting ourselves. And being real.
One other thing is that the public information kit, I think, can be some of the stuff in it is for groups that are further along, but I think some of the stuff too can help people start groups. I think it costs $2.
Yeah.
I'm young, cold, and alcoholic, and drug user. You know, I think, at least I found what has helped me, you know, in working. I got really screwed up when I first came in the program and tried to, you know, I admitted that I was an alcoholic, you know, but I didn't admit that I had a drug problem. And, you know, something I really identified with, I got out of the AA grapevine. I find that more and more the AA grapevine, some of the stories related in there are drug related. And one of this last month I could really identify with. There's a guy from Denver, Colorado, and he talked about how he came in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and still used marijuana. And I could really identify with that because that's what I did. You know, I tried a marijuana maintenance program, you know, or marijuana therapy is what I call it, you know, to arrest my alcoholism. Well, eventually, you know, I got into stronger and stronger drugs, and eventually I went back to the alcohol. You know, and perhaps, you know, someday I think it'd be nice if the NA group, you know, had a small pamphlet like that because, you know, this AA grapevine, at least for me, it's like a portable meeting. I can take that with me wherever I go, you know, it's pocket size, and I can carry it with me, you know, and just open that thing up, and it's like one alcoholic relating to another, you know, through the written word, and I can carry that in just like having a meeting with me.
Donald, let me stop you there unless we're running overtime, and we got another function starting, and that is true, but we do have the Rainbow Connection out of Atlanta, the main line out of San Francisco, and the NA Voice out of Sun Valley that are the newsletters and the written word of individuals, stories, and things that, those are at least 3 good ones that I know of that come out regularly.
Can I get those addresses from you?
Yeah, if I don't have them with me, you know, they have them at the registration. I noticed they have some voice registration blanks, and Bo has, which he'll be having a table out, has July copies of the Rainbow Connection. And there will be the editors and the responsible people of the main line out of San Francisco, and they're all 3 just dynamite.
Isn't there one for Atlanta?
The Rainbow Connection. The main line out of San Francisco and the NA newsletter itself is the voice. And they're fantastic, you know. So that's three, you know, that's for $15 a year. They cost about $5 each year. That's $15 a year. You got all these publications coming in regularly, and they save my life.
It's being drawn out too. The voice comes only 4 times a year. The main line is not every month.
No, but between all 3, I take all 3 of them because I need everything I
And
get.
that should be shared with your
Right.
And I'm Bernie, and I'm a drug addict.
Hi, Bernie.
Share my experience is I'm a drugstore addict, and I go to AA and teach them to go to AA and teach them their alcohol and drug addicts or alcoholics and users. There isn't a lot of slack. I do a lot of things in that but there's people my age. I go to the common solution. I have asked CSR, it's all right if I go to the news or I've done the secretary. I have not had the door closed on me. In fact, in AA, they'll come up to me and say, sometimes
Depends on, I found my own reaction, where my head was.
I wasn't a hypocrite.
Yeah, thank you. Why don't we close this meeting and we can discuss after? Why don't we hug bodies and say the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory forever. Keep coming by, get worse. Let's empty our ashtrays and